If people spoke every word their mind said, they would sound batshit crazy. I'd probably be in jail. Tell me about it. The grotesqueries that travel through my brain just walking behind a moderately attractive woman scares even myself. I would be divorced for sure. Speaking me is a nice guy who has never cheated and doesn't objectify women. Subconscious me is a horn dog with an extra portion of scary one-liners. This is mostly what dads need to do differently when raising a son versus raising a daughter. No matter what a woman says, she's not very likely to end up in jail. Men need to learn, from their fathers, how to keep their brain-to-mouth pathway in check. Same. Yesterday I went to deposit some money in the bank, and while I was waiting in line the thought popped in my head, what if I accidentally put a robbery note in the envelope instead of money? Tacos, tacos, oh hey dog. Tacos, tacos. No, it's worse than that. The human mind is a noisy place, and most of the words your brain is thinking are thought near simultaneously with other words, so what you would actually sound is like a huge crowd, producing a white noise of conversation at best, and at worst, every time you opened your mouth, a howling tumult of indecipherable torment, layers and layers of emotional expression from the deeper and unexplored ID, the part of you which is a multitude and sings always with 1,000 throats, the only song it sings being the one that ends the world. It would be like blowing the trumpet that sounds the start of the apocalypse, every time you opened your mouth. Some people don't have an internal monologue, so they probably wouldn't sound crazy. Try to not think anything for 60 seconds. During these 60 seconds, focus on being mindful of any thought that distracts you from not thinking. There's neuroscience evidence to suggest that it can physically change the brain's midline, plausibly changing the way we handle stress and the amount of stress we feel. If your grandparents or parents tell the same stories over and over again, it's not because they're losing their memory, it's because they like remembering them. My grandma used to comment on this bull farm every time we passed it coming home from church on Sundays, and she would say, "Those bulls go to the rodeo. They are prize-winning Brahma bulls." Every time. So now whenever anyone in our family repeats stories, we just say Brahma bulls. Or something including Brahma. "Oh yeah, was that concert in Brahma? Did you see any Brahma bulls there?" Etc. But also, sometimes it's because they're losing it. Can confirm, 2 grandparents gone due to Alzheimer's. I would never tell the same story twice to the same person out of fear of being boring, and out of consideration of all the times older people bored me to death with the same stories. But now I'm pushing 50 and starting to do it, which makes me not want to talk at all. You're a sweetheart. Here's one that I thought of earlier, because I was thinking about this friend. When we were stationed in Puerto Rico, before Roosevelt Roads was closed, my parents and I spent a lot of time up in the rainforest. It was called El Yunque. I was about 6 or 7, 1991-92, and my family, as well as another family and a couple of my friends, had a picnic by one of the waterfalls. There was a spot to swim in too, so my friend, her dad, my dad, and myself go hang out in the water. She was 4 at the time, and both of us were okay swimmers. The dads were messing about by the waterfall, but we wanted to play a bit further out. The rocks were slippery, and at one point she slipped and went under the water, and couldn't keep her head above. I called for our parents and kept her head above water long enough for someone to come grab her, which wasn't easy, because as any panicky person does, she was clinging and shoving me down to try to stay above. After that we got yelled at for going too far out, and we were made to stay out of the water. I haven't seen her since I was 10, and that's one of the things I hated about growing up in the military. My in-laws, aged roughly 30 to 60, are all constantly repeating the same stories. At first it was awkward because I didn't know if I should act surprised by the twist or whatever, but then I realized, like OP says, that remembering good times is enjoyable for everyone involved. The real LPT in the comments. That's something I'll remember. Listen to the other person and appreciate their stories about life and past exploits and achievements. They'll appreciate the time spent conversing with you so much more. And you learn something about them. And what a great way to let them talk when you don't know what to talk about. I'm going to use this with my neighbors. The ones who grew up here love telling me about back when this or that neighborhood was all orange groves, and that tourist bar over there used to be their grandpa's house, and stories about boating, fishing, love affairs and hurricanes past. People do love to reminisce sometimes, don't they? It always comes down to the details. Twice in 1 month? Remembering fondly. Twice in 1 hour? Remembering poorly. One of mankind's great achievements is managing to go 75 years without nuking each other. That mutually assured destruction thing might have actually saved us from some devastating wars. Proxy wars and espionage instead. The US and Russia are basically in Cold War II right now, for the reasons you stated. Just look at what their goals are and what has happened here. Divided and angry populace. Backing off of the world stage, politically and militarily. Mistrust of government. Questioning the validity of our elections. Wrong. Mankind's greatest achievement is surviving after getting thrown off the top of the cell. We came close. America almost nuked itself several times. I assume the USSR probably did too. Source: Command and Control by Eric Schlosser. And just think, if you are reading this comment from any major city in most nearly any country, there's a nuke pointed directly at you. Just a series of electric circuits keeping the nuke from hurling itself towards you. Hell, there might even be 5 to 10 nukes pointing at you right this very moment. Welp. Big gulps, huh? Alright. Don't jump the gun. The most recent time was 9 August 1945. We haven't made it 75 years yet. Insert that Simpsons meme. Managing to go 75 years without nuking each other yet.